Messenger Self-Storage webinar series. I'm Poppy Behrens, publisher of Minico, and we're delighted to have you in the audience today. This is one of several informative webinars planned for self-storage owners, operators, managers, investors, developers, and other industry professionals. The sponsor of today's webinar is Storage Marketing Solutions, and our presenter is Derek Naylor, president of Storage Marketing Solutions. Over the past 7 years, Derek has incrementally increased sales revenue for his clients by more than $250 million through innovation and advanced marketing strategies. In 2003, Derek founded Storage Marketing Solutions and directed his talents and unique growth strategies exclusively to the self-storage industry. Storage Marketing Solutions now helps hundreds of operators from coast to coast to increase their occupancy and profits through the company's unique outsourced marketing director program and other marketing tools. Derek is a regular contributor to industry magazines and a dynamic speaker at trade events across the nation. This year marks the 32nd anniversary of the Mini Storage Messenger, providing the self-storage industry with in-depth news and information. Each issue of Mini Storage Messenger offers cover stories and feature articles on the most timely industry topics and trends. Monthly columns contributed by industry experts and accomplished business professionals address a wide range of topics including security, facility operations, technology, legal issues, legislative updates, construction, and development. We also publish a variety of other self-storage data sources, such as those you see listed on your screen. For more information, please visit ministoragemessenger.com. A little bit of housekeeping before we get started. We'd like to invite you to submit questions throughout the webinar. To do so, simply type your question into the question area and click Send. Depending on the question, we will answer it either privately or to the entire group. While Derek will attempt to answer as many questions as possible during the Q&A period at the end of the webinar, those that he cannot answer due to time constraints will be answered by way of email once the webinar has concluded. The webinar is being recorded, and it will be available for viewing on demand from our archives at ministoragemessenger.com. The presentation should run about 45 minutes with the remainder of the hour open to questions and answers. And now it's my distinct pleasure to turn the presentation over to Derek. Good morning, Derek.
Good morning. Thanks, Poppy. Or I should say afternoon now, 3 minutes afternoon to be precise. So anyway, I'm glad to be talking about this subject today. This is one thing that I personally focus on. You know, if you were to take everything away from me, and take all other strategies away from me, and I still had to go in and help businesses increase their profits and their sales, I would focus on what I'm going to teach you today, which is something that not a lot of people focus on in most businesses, but especially in the self-storage industry. The self-storage industry, for reasons that I'll discuss a little bit later, has largely ignored a lot of these opportunities for various reasons. But this is 3 rare but quick income boosters that every storage facility in the country can capitalize on. And what I want to do today is introduce you to these concepts and then teach you how to capitalize on them so that you can start to increase your income. We all know that, and by the way, the reason there's an asterisk by the 3 is that it was advertised as 3, but I actually came up with 4 during the process, and I didn't want to leave one out. So I didn't want to quite change the title, but I thought I'd put that up there just so that you knew what I was talking about. So let's dive into this. One of the things that I want to talk about is the struggle that everyone has in today's day and age. And at every trade show I go to, whether it be state or national, basically everybody, we get hundreds of phone calls a month talking to various operators all over the country, really all over the world. And one of the things that they all talk about is their occupancy. Derek, I remember back in the day, I used to have a waiting list. Now it's like I can barely hold my own. I get 20 new move-ins a month, but I also get 20 move-outs. So I mean, it's just so hard to build occupancy. And a lot of that is due to the economy and the new housing market, which I'm sure everyone is aware of. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but we know that the housing market is tough, and we know that people use storage a lot surrounding moves. So whether they buy a new home or build a new home or move from a home to another home, that involved a lot of the storage demand up until about 2008 when things sort of went sour in the housing market. So building occupancy is still possible. I don't want to say that it's not possible. However, what I wanted to do today, instead of talking about building occupancy like everyone talks about from the marketing angle, I want to talk about increasing your income with what you already have occupancy-wise. And it's a really powerful concept. Again, if you stripped everything away from me, I would never focus on trying to get new customers first. I would always focus on the customers that you have already and the assets that you're already sitting on. So occupancy, I kind of did this tongue-in-cheek. Occupancy, why don't you like me anymore, and what happened to my waiting list? That's sort of the overall theme that I hear in talking to literally thousands of operators a year, that occupancy is just hard to get. And this is the reality that we face. And obviously, again, you can gain occupancy if you're aggressive at marketing for new customers, but why not adapt and focus on and still focus on increasing income, which is the bottom line anyway. This storage game is not about occupancy. It's about net operating income, which obviously, determines the cash flow of the facility and determines the valuation of the asset. So what I want to do today is teach you some really proven systems. This stuff works for hundreds of facilities across the country. They're very easy to implement, and I really hope that everyone on here, although I know you won't, I really hope that everyone on here takes what I'm saying to heart and implements what I teach you. Now, one thing that you must understand right up front is that you have right now at your facility, whether you know what the number is or not, and you've heard me say this a lot if you've been listening to my webinars or articles or anything, is that you have a lifetime customer value. Right now, let's just say it's $1,000 for sake of round numbers. Whatever it is, you take your average monthly rent, multiply it by the average length of stay, add in your average merchandise purchase. That's the most simple formula to do that. And on average, across our client base, which is not every storage facility in the country, obviously, but across our client base, we see that number right around $1,000. So every time you acquire a new customer, they are worth about $1,000 to you as a business. Now, that $1,000 is something that is not set in stone. And that's really the foundational principle that you have to believe in order for you to believe anything else that I say on the rest of this webinar, that the money that you charge them, that the length they stay at your facility, that the products they buy after they move in or during the move-in process, that all of these things can be changed, and that number can go up from 1,000. We've seen it go up from 1,000 to 1,500 on average for people who get really aggressive with this. And the good news is that you don't have to spend hardly any money to do it, and you don't have to acquire another customer to do it other than what you're already getting. So it's kind of I thought, as I was thinking of the topic for this webinar, since we do so many with Mini Storage Messenger, I thought, I don't really want to talk about building occupancy. Everyone's talking about that through internet marketing and other tactics that are out there. I want to talk about how to really get more out of what you already have, which I think is hopefully a breath of fresh air. So one of my favorite business philosophers, as I'm sure you've heard me say before if you've listened to what I've talked about, is a guy by the name of Jim Rohn, which is R-O-H-N. I'm sure many of you have heard of him. He's kind of a motivational philosopher, business philosophy guy, but nonetheless, he talked about his frustration with some of his friends, and he said, I want you to imagine for a minute that you are sitting in your kitchen at night eating dinner and your phone rings. You look at the caller ID and it's one of your best friends, and he says, hey, guess what? And by the way, this best friend is also your neighbor. I found a huge vein of gold that runs through our backyard, and I mean, there's just a ton of gold under our backyard. And the friends are like, oh, really? Well, how do I get it? And he's like, well, it's all yours. I mean, you own the property, and all the mineral rights and everything are yours. So I would say head down to Home Depot and get yourself a shovel and a wheelbarrow, and let's start digging. And the punchline of the story is the friend's going, well, do you know how much a shovel and a wheelbarrow cost? Now, that's meant to be funny, although it's very true of what we see happening. So right now, you have a gold mine under your feet. Now, not literally under your feet, but almost in terms of what we're going to be talking about. If you have customers at your storage facility now, then you have more revenue that you can take out of them, again, without spending a lot of money, probably the equivalent of what I just said, a shovel and a wheelbarrow down at Home Depot. It's just up to you to do the digging or not. But again, you have to subscribe to the philosophy that your customers are worth a certain amount right now, but that's not set in stone. there's a concept that I want everyone to pay very close attention to and write down. It's called price elasticity. Again, price elasticity, like in terms of like an elastic band. You can stretch or shrink prices however you want in terms of products. You know, a lot of people can sell products for a lot higher than they do. For example, I just got my windows washed in my home inside and out, and when the company came over to do a bid, I don't even know how many windows we have. We have quite a few windows in our house, but the guy came over to give me the bid, and he was very hesitant and almost nervous to tell me the price. And when he told me the price, it was $91 for inside and out. Now, I don't know if that's good or bad, but to me that seemed extremely cheap, just based on the amount of windows we have in our house. But he was nervous to tell me that, feeling that I'd say, oh, that's too much money, I don't want to do this. Now, he could have said $191, and I would have been fine with it. I was expecting it to come in somewhere around $300. So a lot of businesses out there, including you, if you're listening to this, and I encourage you and I applaud you for being on this webinar, because it's not really an attractive topic. It's not social media. It's not, you know, iPhone apps. It's not the sexy stuff that everyone wants to hear. But if you want to make money and you want to add bigger deposits to your bank account and have that cash register ring, then this is going to be a great concept. So goldmine number 1, cross-sell to your new and existing customers. Now, what do I mean by cross-sell? Cross-sell is simply selling somebody else's product or service to your existing customers. Just like you're willing to pay for a new customer, so are other businesses. Now, whether or not you know it, you are paying for new customers now. If you're running an ad in the newspaper or Yellow Pages or running pay-per-click on Google, you are paying a certain cost for a new customer, whether you know it or not. Now, that, you know, again, on average across our client base, that number is somewhere around $100. That you're paying for a new customer. So other businesses are doing the same thing. Obviously, if there's a carpet cleaner in your neighborhood or a window washer, as I mentioned, they are paying a cost for new customers as well. Most businesses are happy to pay you that money instead of paying that to a Yellow Page directory or to Google or to whoever. So what you really have that's special, and I consider it a business's most valuable asset, is your customer relationships and your customer database. Even your past customers who move out, if you've done a good job of keeping track of that and you're using a good management software, even people who have moved out, you still have a relationship with them. They had an experience with you. Hopefully it was positive and not negative, but you can leverage that in a very positive way that allows you to gain more money from that relationship than you currently are. So I want to give you some examples in terms of cross-selling. I mentioned a couple of them, but basically, let's back up a little bit and talk about why this works. Here's what we know about most people who use storage. Now, take out the commercial customers who store files and inventory and equipment and things like that, but look at your residential customers and think of the type of person that is. Well, you know, as I talked about, they might be moving or selling a home or building a home, so that we've got that factor. Another factor we have is that they obviously care enough about their home or their apartment that they want to keep it clean and organized. Otherwise, they just have the stuff sitting around in their garage or overcrowding their closets or whatever. So knowing those two facts about these people, and we could go even further with that analysis, but for sake of time, let's just stop at that. Let's just say, well, what else might somebody do if they care about keeping their home clean and organized? Well, for one, they might wash their windows. They might clean their carpets. Not only if they were just getting clean and organized, but if they were moving and have their home up for sale, that's something that a lot of people do. They clean their carpets, get their windows washed, and really clean up the home so that it looks nice. A couple of other examples: moving companies, mortgage companies, title companies, replacement window companies, siding and brick companies, landscape companies, yard maintenance companies that mow and trim the lawn and so forth in the summertime. All of these things surround and are typically, your customers are prone to buy these a lot more prone than somebody who, say, doesn't use storage, because, you know, if they're not using storage but yet they need it, clearly they don't, you know, they're not as apt to spend money. They haven't put their money where their mouth is. In other words, they're just, you know, they might buy it, but we know for sure that the people storing their stuff are willing to spend money to make a certain objective happen. So when you cross-sell, what you do is you go out and you form a relationship with these people where you become an affiliate with them, just like Expedia and Orbitz and all these major travel sites are for the airlines and hotels. A lot of them are affiliates to the major airlines and to the hotels, and they get paid a certain percentage, or they buy rooms at a discount and then mark them up what they want and then sell them to consumers. Now you can do the same thing for self-storage, and please, for 1 minute, just suspend any overwhelmment on how hard this is, because it's actually very simple. So what you do is you make a list. I gave you a good list of examples. But what you do is you make a list of all those types of companies: painting companies, carpet replacement companies. Basically, you can go through the best thing I tell our clients to do is go through Home Depot or Lowe's and look at all the different sections. There's appliance companies, there's carpet cleaning, there's carpet, there's lawnmowers, there's barbecue companies. All that kind of stuff is there, and it really helps open your mind as to what it takes to improve a home and the looks of the home and things that surround, and if you bought a home before, just think of the process. Well, I hired a realtor, I talked to a mortgage company, we had to work with a title insurance agency to get get everything closed. Maybe we work with an appraiser. There's all these surrounding businesses, and just like you, they are dying for business these days. Everybody, almost everybody, I should say, is hurting for business, and they want new customers just as bad as you do. So why not give them those new customers based on your relationship? And here's the thing that a lot of people are afraid of. They're afraid of annoying their customers by making these offers to them. You're actually helping your customers. If you change your mindset from, I'm just a pesky salesperson who's going to be annoying my customers with offers, and if they hear from me, then they might move out. You need to suspend that disbelief immediately, because what you're doing is you're enhancing their overall experience. And here's how you set it up. So after you go out and you talk to these companies, the best way to approach them is to approach them and obviously introduce yourself. Say, hi, my name's Derek. I'm with XYZ Storage, and they'll probably say, oh yeah, you're just down the street, right? Yeah, we are. And say, we get a lot of customers who are moving, and it occurred to me the other day that we probably have a lot of synergy. I could probably send you a lot of customers, and you could probably send us some customers too. But we're putting together a program, and it's called our VIP program, where we want to handpick some of the best vendors in our market, and we have a little bit of a qualifying checklist. We don't want to be sending our customers anywhere bad. So you have to be in business for a certain length of time. You have to have a good rating with the Better Business Bureau. You got to have good user reviews online. You got to have, certain if there's certifications required, you got to have those certifications. So you come up with a checklist that makes it easy. And by the way, take note, if you want this checklist, I'll send it to everyone for free, which sort of allows so when you present this offer to your customers, you can say, we've pre-screened all of these vendors. They all have given us their word and written guarantee that they will take care of you. And in addition to that, because you are a customer of XYZ Storage, or whatever the name of your storage facility is, you get a 10% discount, or you get one room free if it's carpet cleaning, or whatever the promotion is. So what you're doing is again, taking some stress away from your customers, because otherwise they'd have to shop around, they'd have to do the interviewing, they'd have to determine who's good, who's bad, who's indifferent. They'd have to find someone with the best special and so forth. So if you do this for them and you create these solid relationships, then all you do is you create what we just call it a VIP program. So if you've got a pen handy, whatever the name of your storage facility is, for example, if it's XYZ Storage, which is our famous fake storage company, go out and buy the domain name xyzselfstoragevip.com. Okay, and if you go to GoDaddy, it's probably $9.99 a month. Hopefully you don't have a really popular name. If you do, good for you for being on this webinar, because you're going to get that name before your other competitors do. So you go out and you buy that name, and then what you do is you simply list all of your preferred vendors, and you describe the qualifying process that they've gone through. You describe the discount they get because you're one of their customers, and then all of that is trackable. You put a tracking phone number on it, and then you embed tracking links in the website, which any web programmer can do, whether you use us or anybody else. Any good web programmer can embed tracking links, so that you can then send reports to the window washer. Say, hey, last month we gave you 10 phone calls, and 38 people clicked on your ad. What did you see from it? And you pre-negotiate a deal with them where they're giving you $100 or $500. Some of these people have very high cost per customer acquisition. As many of you might know, I come from a family. My family owns a glass and window business, so we sell replacement windows for homes and make new windows. I know for that business, our cost to get a new customer to replace their windows in their home is close to $1,000. Now, would we be happy to pay a storage facility $500 or even $750 if they gave us a customer that replaced all their windows in their house? You bet you we would, because that's a $5,000 to $10,000 job on average that we're going to get from that. So they're happy to pay this to you, and you've got to understand that concept of everybody's paying to get customers. Why not take advantage of your relationship you have, make your customers feel like because they're doing business with you, they're getting access to a very elite group of vendors in their market. They're getting special pricing, and you make it super easy for them by building a website for them with the phone numbers and the qualifications they've gone through. Think about it for a minute. If you moved into a storage facility and rented a storage unit, and upon move-in, you got a flyer that described this to you that said, because you're a valued customer of XYZ Self-Storage, you also get the best deal in town at these pre-screened companies. And then it describes the process. Each one of these companies has passed our tough 20-point test. I'm just making this up as I go, but we do have the form we can send you. Each one of these customers pass our strict 20-point test. They guarantee your satisfaction, and because you're a customer, they're giving you an extra 5% off or whatever the deal is. So you get that, and you go, well, gee, I might need my windows washed. I mean, maybe not today, but maybe 6 months from now. Or, I've been thinking of changing my landscaping company. Maybe I'll use these guys. And it looks like they're a great company. They've got the seal of approval from the storage company who I already have trust with, and it looks like I get an extra special deal. Most of these customers don't even shop around, to be honest, because they feel like there's a special deal set aside for them. So that's how the logistics of it work. You make the list, you go out, you make them fill out the checklist so that you can honestly say that you've pre-qualified them, and then you talk to them about compensation. You ask them how much they pay for a new customer now. Another way to ask the question is, if you have external salespeople on commission, how do you pay them? If they pay them a flat commission or if they pay them a percentage, you can just become basically an indirect salesperson for the company and get commissions on a monthly basis. We have facilities that are doing that, where they just get monthly checks from people like they're a commissioned salespeople, or a commissioned salesperson, I should say. Now, the hardest part about this is going out and talking to the businesses with confidence and charisma, and knowing that, again, that's why I'm telling you, you have to understand that these people are more than happy to pay you money, because they all want customers just like you do. It's just like if somebody came to you and said, hey, I think I could give you 5 to 10 new customers a month, but I want $50 a piece. Is that okay? Most storage facilities would jump up and down at that opportunity because they know that they're paying more than that now anyway. So the hardest part is forming those alliances. Then you build the website, xyzstoragevip.com. You then create the flyer to hand out to all of your new customers when they move in. Quickly explain it to them, and and then get the website portion built, which your web company can do for very cheap. And then this thing sort of just runs as a machine. Now, if it's done right with call tracking phone numbers and analytics on the back end, then you'll know exactly what you're sending them. So if there's a company that you're sending a lot of traffic to, but for some reason they're telling you that nobody's doing business, then you can go in and listen to the phone calls. And if you get somebody who actually places an order over the phone, then you know that you're dealing with an unethical company who's being dishonest with you. So that's the importance of putting the tracking phone numbers on. So, overall, this program may cost you, a couple $100 to get the web page built, and then to create the flyers, maybe another $50 if you get them, if you can run them off on your local color printer. And then, other than that, there's really not any additional cost to this program. The tracking phone numbers, depending on who you get them through, that's probably one of the biggest ongoing expenses. But it just depends on how many alliances you make and how many affiliates you are. So, but after that, it really just sort of runs on autopilot unless you have any issues. So one of the great things is if a customer has any issues with the business, a lot of times they'll call you and you can say, well, you know what, let me call them and see what's going on. Hey, carpet cleaner, why didn't you show up to these guys' house? I'm putting my reputation on the line here. And by filling out the form and signing it, you've now promised to give them an extra room free for not showing up or whatever the deal is. So again, we have all these forms we can send to you. If you just send us an email at info@storagemarketingsolutions.com and just put cross-sell in the subject line, and we'll send you out these forms. Okay, so that's goldmine number one. Hopefully that makes a lot of sense. That's something that not a lot of storage facilities do. I doubt your competitors are doing it, and it's a great way to add. Again, this is found money. This is money that you're currently not getting. So I like to call it mailbox money. You're not really expecting it. It's not part of your core business. It doesn't take a lot to do. It doesn't take a lot of work after you've set it up, but it's money that just keeps coming in month after month, and that raises that lifetime value from $1,000 to probably $1,100 across the board. Because, like I say, some businesses will pay you $750, and some might only pay you $50, some might pay you $100. But again, that's ask them what they're currently paying for a customer. If they don't know that, ask them what they pay their commission salespeople. And that's usually how you can arrive at a number. Okay, goldmine number two is not completely unheard of in this industry, but it's upselling to your new and existing customers. We've all heard of obviously selling packing supplies like boxes, bubble wrap, and so forth. We've certainly heard of pay with rent tenant insurance, where in most, I don't know if most is the right word, but in certain states you can get a commission on that. But one thing that a lot of facilities ignore is past customers. After a past customer moves out, they actually don't really contact that customer again, rarely if ever. So you need to set up a system to upsell your customers. And instead of cross-selling, upselling is selling them. The difference between upselling and cross-selling, by the way, is cross-selling is selling another person's products and services. Upselling is selling them something that you already have and can offer. Another popular upsell that I didn't put in here is an additional space. One of our flagship strategies when we get a new client is we help them put together what we call a more space campaign, where we get all of their existing tenants to receive a message via email and letter letting them know that if they want an additional space or a bigger space, that because they're a valued customer, they'll get VIP pricing. Now, VIP pricing, again, to be very clear, I am not a fan of long-term discounts, and neither should you be, because it does affect your economic occupancy in a big way. However, nice short-term perks to get people to take action are very much worth it. They're not really a cost. They're sort of a necessity to get people to take action. So you might say, you know what, we give all of our new customers 1 month free on that unit. We'll give you, a month and a half free or whatever. But just add a little extra to what you're giving your new customers so they really do feel like it's a special deal for that additional space. If you have 500 customers, you can probably get 10 to 20 new units rented just by doing that alone. Yet most storage facilities don't do it. Again, the reason why most storage facilities are afraid to talk to their current customers is because they're afraid that if they send them stuff in the mail or via email or pick up the phone and call them, that they will remember they have a storage unit and then they'll move out. That's absolutely 100% false. Now, will it happen from time to time? Yes, but it's the exception rather than the rule, and it's definitely more of a coincidence than anything. They're probably going to move out whether you talk to them or not. So the pros far outweigh the cons in this situation. So now, I know what everybody is thinking. They're going, yeah, I already have my merchandise set up. I sell insurance, and okay, maybe I don't talk to my past customers or offer my existing customers more space. But we have all that set up. I can guarantee you that if you take each one of these categories, packing supplies, insurance, past customers, and more space to existing customers, and if you sell propane or if you have an eBay reseller program or if you're selling something like that, you can add that to this list. But each one of those needs to have a proactive, persuasive marketing system behind it. You can't just set up your planogram in the corner of your facility with boxes and bubble wrap and tape and expect your sales to be phenomenal. What you have to do is you have to create a marketing program for that. You have to get the manager obviously has to be well trained in order to sell that. Like when a new customer walks in, walk them over to that, and as you're talking to them about your storage facility, walk them over to that. Grab a lock and say, this is one of the toughest locks in the industry. We've got that, this thing can't be cut with, standard bolt cutters or whatever, whatever your unique angle is. walk them over and talk to them about it, but that's not where it stops. Most storage facilities only attempt to sell packing supplies when a new customer moves in. But guess what? Most people don't buy a majority of packing supplies in their life when they move into a storage unit. They buy it when they move or are getting organized in their home. So it may be after the fact that they moved in that they need the packing supplies. Now we surveyed over 2,000 people, and excuse me, who were using a storage company. And we asked them, we didn't identify ourselves as a storage company. We identified ourselves as a market research company. But we asked them, hey, you've been selected as a storage user. Do you mind answering one question? And most people say, sure. If you had to buy boxes or bubble wrap or tape or anything like that, where would you go buy it at? And less than 30% of the people we surveyed said that they would buy it at their storage facility, which every single one of them were storing at a storage facility. They said things like Home Depot, Lowe's, UPS. I would go online and order them through Uline Packing Supplies or something like that. So putting together an ongoing marketing campaign, it doesn't have to be expensive. If you have an email marketing system set up right, if you're using our Email Marketing Elite program, it automatically does this. But if you have an email marketing program, or if you're sending out letters or whatever you're doing, be sure to remind your customers that because they're a customer of yours, you'll take extra special care of them when it comes time to buy boxes and packing supplies. So that's a great, that's just one example of packing supplies. Same thing with tenant insurance. Obviously, the best time to sell that is when they're moving in. However, going back to those that have not opted to use insurance, and if you're not requiring it at this time, going back to them at a later point, especially right now with all the horrible disasters going on in Missouri and that area, now is a good time to bring that up to people. Say we cannot control, while we do everything we can to keep your belongings safe, we can't control Mother Nature. Send them an offer to sign up for insurance. It's only $7 a month or whatever your pricing is for $2,000 in coverage. So again, don't just offer it once. Offer it on an ongoing basis. Past customers, same thing. When a customer moves out, most storage facilities say, well, we thank you for your business. We hope if you need us again, you'll come back. But most people don't need storage immediately when they come back, and a lot of times they don't necessarily forget where they stored before, but they'll start the process over of shopping around. By keeping in constant communication, not at an annoying level like every day or even every week, but on an ongoing basis with your customers, again, through an automated system that not only gets them to give you feedback and user reviews online, but also increases the number of repeat customers you get. Right now, repeat business is one of the most common sources of new move-ins in the storage industry. You've got drive-by and then repeat business, usually 1 and 2. So that it's that people come back. But by putting some energy and effort and a system behind it, you can increase the amount of past customers you get significantly too. So each one of these categories, whether it be tenant insurance or the more space program I described, I want you to take this seriously and look at it as a true gold mine and analyze the system you have behind it. And I know this seems like a lot of work. Again, I don't want to call it no work. It is work, but once you get it set up and systematize it properly, put things on autopilot, then it just sort of runs on autopilot. When a new customer moves out, you put them in the right category, and then they automatically get a series of emails or letters or whatever it is that you're doing. And there's, we have technology that does that, and there's, that technology is available, and it's very cheap. So that's gold mine number 2 is upselling your existing customers. And one question I get a lot is, well, Derek, how often is okay to communicate with my existing customers? And my answer is, ideally, you want to be talking to them, giving them offers once every other month. So, but you don't want to do it in an annoying way. You always want to talk about the value you're trying to add to them. Just like when I was talking about cross-selling, we just don't send them an email saying, here's 20% off XYZ moving. We say, because you're our customer, we want to take extra special care of you. Therefore, we pre-screen this company and we've negotiated a special price for you. Hopefully you catch the distinct difference in framing of the offer that you're giving. And the same is true with upselling your existing customers. You don't want to just say, hey, buy tenant insurance from us. You want to describe their experience and how it will make their life easier, how they'll get peace of mind, how, if something horrible does happen, they'll be covered and won't have to worry about it. So you always want to talk about them and their best interest in your marketing. And when you do that, and you do it sincerely, rarely does it annoy people. But as a general rule of thumb, I would say every other month. But just make sure that your messages are talking about the value that they're going to get and the enhanced experience that they're going to get as well. All right, gold mine number 3, rent rate ascension. Now, a lot of people are familiar with this. I would say most owners are familiar with this. Not as many managers are familiar with this concept. But when they think of it, they think about raising their prices to existing customers, which is obviously a big thing to do. Managing your street rate based on your occupancy, and with today's software, software programs out there that have revenue management built in, I know there's a lot of great tools out there that do that. That can be done automatically for you. However, in today's economy, a lot of people are afraid to do it. I can tell you today that almost all of our customers are raising prices to their existing customers on an ongoing basis and not having anybody move out because of it. If you rate, even if you just do $5 a month for all of your customers, or $7 a month for all of your customers, regardless of their unit size. I mean, if you don't want to make it complicated, a lot of our clients don't want to make it complicated. They want to make it simple and easy. So, they do $7 or $5 or whatever. If they have 1,000 customers, that is significant money to the bottom line that they otherwise weren't going to get. And people rarely move out over $5. There's still a huge line at Starbucks every morning for people spending $3, $4, $5 on a latte in the morning and a muffin. So, you definitely can get away with that in this economy. Again, you have to focus on, you have to focus on the right things and always spin it into a positive. Whenever we help our clients raise rent, we use a very soft letter with a lot of psychology built into it. But we also let them know that they can, by using the referral program, they can more than offset that increase in price by sending us a referral once a month, which is obviously spinning it into a positive. So we do notice an increase in referrals when we raise prices, and yet the customer doesn't move out. So the pros far outweigh the cons. I don't want to talk a lot about that other than to tell you that it doesn't have to be complicated. If you're scared to do it, if you don't want to do your entire customer database, just do 25 of them. Just test it out. Do 25. If you have a mass exodus of all 25 people, then don't do it for everyone, obviously. But if you test small in marketing, you can never lose big. And that's a concept I want you to always remember. Always test small so you can never lose big. And then obviously have a backup plan. If you're raising rents for your existing customers now, and you call someone and say, "Geez, I can't believe you raised my price. I've been a great customer for years. This is ridiculous." Then have a no-walk policy. Say something like, "You know what? You are a great customer. I'm going to go ahead and waive that for you." Now, that's something that you'll need to discuss. If you're a manager, you'll need to discuss with your owner. If you're an owner, you'll need to discuss it with your manager. But have a no-walk policy, which basically means you're going to raise the rent, but you might end up waiving a few increases because somebody is an exception to the rule or whatever. Street rate management, that's a very important thing to manage. If you've got a unit size, I don't know why people at trade shows come up and tell me that they're 100% occupied. That's not something to be proud of because they're obviously not managing the revenue properly. But if you've got a unit mix that's, or say your 10 by 10s, for example, are 92% or above, well, you should probably consider raising the prices on your remaining 10 by 10s, or if you only have one more left, raising the price on that thing, because you obviously have demand for it in your market, and that's how airlines do it, hotels do it, and the biggest self-storage companies in our industry make a fortune by doing this. So, if you get in on any of the REITs, investor phone calls or any of that kind of stuff, they do, they've mentioned some pretty big numbers by just properly managing their revenue and street rates and consistently raising their existing customers' rents. But the one thing that hardly anybody does is what's called tiered pricing levels, and this is a concept that I want to explain to you very quickly. Now, let's say that you get a call from a customer and you determine that they need a 10 by 10 climate-controlled unit. Okay. Now, you may have a lot of 10 by 10 climate controls available. However, what you want to do is you want to offer them tiered pricing for that unit. Think of an airplane. You've got first class, business class, coach, and economy. Okay, that plane's going to the same place. Those people are ultimately going to walk off the exact same jetway. However, some people in first class are going to have they're going to have more leg room. They're going to have wider seats. They're going to have better experience with free drinks and meals and all that kind of stuff. The same can be true for storage. Now, I know a lot of you might be thinking, well, yeah, we do, based on the unit type, we definitely, if it's climate control, we definitely charge more money. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the exact same unit. Let's call it unit number 301, okay? Unit number 301, let's say that your street rate for that unit is $100 or $99 a month for that 10 by 10. When you do your sales presentation, you need to offer that at $119, $109, and $99. Now, there's two benefits to this. Number one, you will get people who will take the $119 rate. Number one, we have been trained as a society that more expensive equals better. Not always, but almost always more expensive equals better. Another thing, people with big egos and money, a lot of money or even not a lot of money, but they just have big egos and like to show off, they take the most expensive just because it's the most expensive. You don't even have to give them a reason why, and they'll take the most expensive. And then, of course, you have the low-end price, which will help those who are shopping on, who are looking for price. Now, what this does is, you not only get the extra $10 or $20 a month, which again, if someone is staying for 10 months, that's either $100 or $200 more added to your lifetime customer value, which I'll go through an example in a minute. That's huge, but you're going to get an extra $100 to $200 per customer. However, it also creates contrast in your pricing, so people don't feel like they have to price shop as much because you've already given them an expensive option and a cheap option. So it creates contrast in pricing. If you just offer them the $99 unit price, they don't have anything to compare that to other than, guess what, hanging up the phone and calling one of your competitors. So the best thing to do is offer it at 3 rates. Now, we do recommend offering perks for doing so. We call it, you can say, well, Mrs. Jones, it sounds like a 10 by 10 is perfect for you. I'll tell you what, we've got three different kinds of 10 by 10. Either one of these will work fine for you. We've got our Platinum 10 by 10 package. Here's what that includes. That includes closest to the gate, closest to the ground access, so you're not going to have to drive too far, and it's going to be closest to the ground or on ground level. It also includes free access to our refreshment center, which is a fancy term for we have a refrigerator with soft drinks in it that you can pick up from Costco and maybe some candy bars or something. You can use our wireless internet. You get extended gate hours, and you get VIP pricing on packing supplies. Now, all of a sudden, that becomes an attractive package, especially to maybe a business customer who's going to buy a lot of boxes and they need extended access hours, and they're going to be accessing their unit a lot. Would they pay an extra $20 for that? Absolutely, they would. But again, if you're only offering it at $99, you don't ever get that opportunity to extract an extra $20 out of somebody. So, and then you go on and you say we have our Gold 10 by 10, which includes everything I just mentioned except for extended hours and access to a refreshment center. And then we have our standard 10 by 10, which is still a great unit. It's clean. We have it monitored by cameras and gate access, and it will hold all your belongings. But some people like those extra perks because they're going to be spending some time in their storage unit. You'll be surprised at how many people, even in today's economy, yes, they will spend an extra $10 or $20 a month with you, for all of the reasons that I just stated. In addition to that, it will increase your conversion rate, your phone call to rental or your walk-in to rental conversion rate, because again, contrast is a very strong influence principle and persuasion principle that not a lot of people use. By creating that contrast yourself, they don't have to shop around because you've created the expensive and cheap, and then if they want lowest price and that's their criteria for buying, a lot of people just take the $99 unit, which guess what? That's what you wanted anyway, so it's not really a loss, but you can add to by doing that. So again, if you have any questions on this, we have a chart we can send out that shows you how to do this. But really, the best thing to do is if you are a manager answering phones, you need to get that down. You need to make your list of what's included in the Platinum, what's included in the Gold, and what's included in the Standard, and talk about the prices and sit down and have that meeting. It might take a couple hours of time to do, but again, it's well worth it for the thousands and thousands of dollars of extra cash you're going to get and extra valuation you're going to get at your facility. So again, we have a chart for you that will help outline this, and then you can work from it. And the manager just has to be comfortable, just like an airline is. Well, sir, would you like business class, first class, or coach, or economy? And people say, well, what does first class cost? And then they compare it all and make their decision. So you can do the same thing at your storage facility. We have clients doing this now, and they have, we have one client that's getting more than 50% of their people to take the Platinum package, and they're loving it because they're adding to their income, but their occupancy is not going up. So this is just on new people moving in. All right, we're running short on time if we want to have some questions. So let's move to gold mine number 4, which is cut the waste. Now, this one's a little bit different. This one does not increase lifetime customer value. However, it is extra money dropped to your bottom line by cutting the waste. What I mean by cut the waste is get rid of the marketing campaigns that are not producing at the highest possible level, and you're not getting a return on investment from. This requires you to measure, and then understand that one bad apple can spoil the whole bunch. If you have one marketing campaign that's costing you $2,000 to acquire a customer and your customers are only worth $1,000, well, that's a big losing proposition. However, so when you look at your budget and say you're spending $5,000 a month on marketing, well, that couple $1,000s is offsetting it's spoiling all of your marketing metrics. So by cutting that out and putting that money into things that are getting you a great ROI, if they're scalable, then you can drop a lot of money to your bottom line. Instead of buying customers for $100, you can, or instead of buying the customers for $2,000 and losing $1,000 on a transaction, you can buy them, shift that money to something that's getting you customers for $50 or $100 or $30 or whatever the price is. And again, this is something that it won't add to your lifetime customer value, but it will add a lot of money to your bottom line. It doesn't need to be a gamble if you measure. There's technology out there today that makes this so easy to do. With our ROI console that we have, it breaks it down medium by medium, and you can just look at the numbers and find, hey, this one right here is losing me money. We need to stop that right away. And you can make decisions easily, and this is why it's important to have multiple pillars as well. One thing I say is good reporting equals confident decisions. If you take the time to set up your reporting right and you're tracking these things properly, which isn't hard, by the way, then you can make the confident decision. It's not a gamble. You know it's costing you more money than it's worth. Just get rid of it, just like you would any other investment or expense that you had. And then also another thing to consider is that if you built your facility on one pillar of incoming tenants, then this is a scary position to be in. So we advocate in a big way that you should have at least 5 to 10 pillars of incoming tenants and coming into your storage facility at any given time, so that when you have to get rid of one of them, the house still stands on the remaining 9 pillars if you have 10. So I just wanted to throw that in there. There's really not much more to it than that, other than you just need to calculate what your cost per lead and cost per customer is on a marketing strategy by marketing strategy basis, and then compare that to your lifetime customer value. Get rid of the stuff that's not making you money, keep the stuff that is, and roll that money elsewhere. So let's talk about an example here on the impact of what we're talking about. You may think this sounds great, but is it really worth all this? And again, all of these things are very easy to do. A little bit of work up front, a little bit of thinking, but other than that, these things all run on autopilot. So let's just run through a quick example here. Now, let's say that the average lifetime tenant value is $1,000. Yours may be higher, it may be lower. We have some clients that are in the $3,000 range. We have some that are close to $700. So $1,000 is fairly conservative. Let's say that you have an average running tenant count of 391. Right now, like I mentioned at the beginning of the call, most facilities that we talk to are holding stagnant on their occupancy. They may get 20 new move-ins, but 20 people move out. So I just said average running tenant count of about 391. So the approximate annual total revenue at this facility is $391,000. Again, that's just approximate based on the simple math. Obviously, if you're selling, if you're not factoring in packing supplies to your lifetime customer value, then this will be different. But nonetheless, this is just for example's sake. Now, let's say that you take what I say to heart and you start doing this stuff. Your average increase in tenant value across the board, because remember, if you do this right, you're going to have some customers that are literally going to be worth double what they're worth to you now, and you're going to have some that aren't worth any extra. They don't take any upsells, any cross-sells. They don't take your tiered pricing level options. So they're worth the same $1,000. So on average, let's say that you're able to increase it $100, which I'm telling you is conservative. If you take what I'm telling you seriously, you can see as high as $200, $300, or even $500 on average if you get really aggressive with this stuff. So this, again, I'm being very conservative, so I don't sound like I'm feeding you full of hyperbole here. So the new average annual total revenue goes from $391,000 to $430,100. Now, the net effect to this is an extra $39,100 in annual cash, which I know a lot of facilities would love. They could use that to upgrade their software. They could use that to, do a lot of different things that they've been wanting to do. But the big winner is that $390,100 in asset valuation, because it is recurring monthly revenue that shows up as NOI on your accounting report. Now, in full disclosure, this does not reflect any cost associated to do these types of programs. However, since most of this doesn't really cost you anything on an ongoing basis, you may have an initial outlay of, maybe $500 or something to get these initial materials printed up. But after that, those materials should last you 6 months to a year anyway. So I think this is a fairly accurate representation without too much hype at all on what, if you just take what I'm talking about seriously, what the impact can be on your storage facility. By the way, I don't know if you noticed, I chose a very small number of units. I know many of you have over 1,000 units or closer to 1,000 units. But I picked 391 units just because I don't want to exaggerate. So if you have more units, then the impact is going to be even more dramatic. Now, I hate to end on a sad note, but here's a sad fact here, and that is that most of you who hear this, and most of the people in my audiences that hear me teach this stuff, even in more detail, don't do anything about it. Of the people on this call, I'm guessing about 20% of the people will get some of this stuff going, maybe not all of it. I'm guessing about 5% of the people will get all of it going, and they will experience huge impacts on their bottom line. That's okay, but I want to encourage you to do the work necessary. This is not hard work. This is not ongoing work. This is not expensive. This is real. It's very real. It works every day across the country, day to day. And one of my favorite stories about this is a story about a famous pastor. I'm not sure where he was located. This is a true story, by the way, but the story goes like this. So everyone who went to this church, let's just say in Georgia, they started going to church, and they noticed, and there was an announcement, there was a new pastor coming in. Everyone was kind of nervous. They didn't know if he was going to be any good or not, or how they felt about it. But when he came in, he delivered one of the best sermons he's ever delivered, and people were just awestruck by this presentation. They walked out in tears. They walked out with their emotions and energy at their highest levels, and they absolutely loved it and were excited about it. Next Sunday, they go back to church. Same pastor, they're just totally enthused to go back to church to hear what he has to say, and he gives the exact same sermon. And people go, you know what, it was that good. I don't mind hearing it again. It was that good. So they go back the next Sunday, and guess what? He gives the exact same sermon again. And people started to go, what? Is this guy, is he a one-trick pony? Why is he still giving the same sermon? So somebody, after the session was over, they walk up and they say, hey, I love your sermon, but why is it that you keep giving the same one? And he says, well, I've been watching you guys in the real world, and you haven't actually taken action on anything I've taught you yet, so clearly you still need to learn the lesson. So again, I don't want to sound harsh or rude or insensitive or non-empathetic. I understand you have a lot going on. I understand this is outside of the box stuff. But that's, in today's day and age, that's where people are thriving, is by doing stuff like this. And again, I can assure you, once the front-end work is done, which is not a lot, by the way, and the expense is done, which is relatively zero compared to the other marketing programs that are out there these days, then you're going to be very, very thrilled with doing this. So I encourage you to take out your shovel, go get the wheelbarrow, and start digging up that vein of gold in your backyard. And now I'm ready for questions.
Okay, let's see. We have quite a few, and again, if you want to ask a question, now would be the time to submit that to us. First question up. Our owner has asked us to spend less time on marketing. What should we do?
My first response is to find a new job. And I don't mean that to be rude, but I mean that in that your owner clearly doesn't understand what is driving the revenue of his business. Marketing, if it's done right, produces customers. Customers produce revenue, and those customers write your paycheck. I mean, you don't have to find a job today or maybe even next month, but if any owner these days is telling you to cut back on marketing, then you know that they're completely out of touch with what needs to be done. And that's a harsh answer, but that's the truth. So sooner or later your facility will begin to struggle. Not only will your stress go up, but you may not have a job because there's not enough money coming in. In today's economy, in today's competitive market with storage facilities on almost every corner, you have to go out and compete and be aggressive with marketing, because if you don't, your competitors are going to eat your lunch. So for your own sake, protect your family, protect your future, and go and find somebody who is clearly in tune with where we're headed and where we're at.
Okay, perfect. Next question. Can you explain cost per lease in terms of marketing?
Sure. Cost per lease is a fairly simple number to calculate. What you do is you take your monthly expenditure on that. So let's say it's $1,000 you spend on a newspaper ad, for example, or a newspaper campaign. And then with the tracking mechanisms, tracking phone numbers and offer codes and unique URLs and things like that, you can track it very scientifically. You then simply divide the number of new tenants you got that month by the total investment, and that will give you your cost per lease. So let's say that newspaper ad that costs you $1,000 a month nets you on average 10 new tenants a month. Your cost per lease is $100 per lease. And you need to do that on each individual marketing medium. A lot of facilities make the mistake of doing it across the board. They say, oh, I spend $5,000 a month on marketing, and I get 50 new tenants, therefore my cost per acquisition is $100. Well, remember the saying I told you at the end when I said cut the waste, one bad apple may spoil the whole bunch? That number may be a lot lower if you get rid of the one that's, if you get rid of the bad apple. So be sure to track it on a granular level, and you can add a lot of money to your bottom line.
All right, next question. What do you think of marketing by social media? What is the best way to do it?
That is an answer that will take me a long time to answer. I will tell you this, social media is our future. Google is starting to index tweets. They're indexing YouTube videos. Facebook is just, I don't know if it's formal or not, but they're at least in discussions with Yahoo and Bing to sort of become an arch rival of Google, and it's going to be a big thing. So if you're not starting to pay attention to social media today, then again, it's going to be one of those things that's going to cost you later. The earlier you start with social media, and the more you start to build these relationships and these fans and this credibility, and you're getting user reviews online, you're getting comments on your videos, you're getting replies to your tweets, all of that is going to be indexed, and you're going to have more credibility with the search engines, not only from a search engine optimization perspective, but if somebody recommends you on their Facebook wall, then if they have an average of 200 friends, you just got a positive endorsement from somebody they trust to your storage facility, which is a lot better than them seeing one of your ads. So, I mean, that's a long subject to go through in detail, but I would definitely start paying attention to social media. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube are the big ones right now. At least get on those. Set up a fan page on Facebook. Set up a Twitter profile. Set up a YouTube channel. Put up a video tour of your facility. Put up pictures and your logo on a Facebook page. Start asking your customers to become fans, and start leveraging that network that's out there, because it may not be the biggest thing today, but you're definitely going to have an edge on your competitors by getting in on social media now.
For those of you who are interested, Derek has done webinars in the past with us on social media, so you can check our archived webinars at ministoragemessenger.com. Next question, does cold calling generate new rentals?
The answer to that is it depends on who you're cold calling. If you're cold calling the right group of people, absolutely. And if you literally mean picking up the phone and calling, or going out and visiting people, there's various definitions for that. But if you're calling people who have a high match criteria to one of your most likely customers, then there's a good chance that you can get them to say yes. However, I can tell you that spending time on the things that I talked about today is going to be worth a lot more money to you than picking up the phone and dialing and smiling. Cold calling is also a great way to get super depressed and frustrated, because you're going to get hung up on nonstop. But if you have the energy to do it, and you have a good list of people who are good candidates, and you have nothing better to do with your time, then I would say do it.
All right, next question. How often do your clients increase their rental rates, and is there a minimum amount of time a customer is at the facility before you actually raise their rate?
That's a great question. We follow, Extra Space did a great case study on this on one of their investor calls, and they found that they can get away with a 7% increase every 9 months without the negative outweighing the positive. So we sort of follow that rule, not to the T, but we're a little bit more generous than that with our customers. We do, wait for, if they're in there a year, then we hit them with about a 5 to 7% increase, just depending on how bold the owner wants to be. But I would say at least 9 months to a year before you raise their rates, unless you get them in on a limited time special that's really, really cheap, like $39 for 3 months or something. Then obviously you need to raise them back up to street rate or above. But that's the general rule of thumb. At the most, you want to do 7% every 9 months. But maybe I'm a little bit of a nicer guy or something, but I prefer every 12 months doing in between 5 and 7%.
Okay, I think we are just about out of time, so if you have any questions that haven't been answered, please shoot them over to us now, and Derek will be more than happy to answer them for you. We'd like to thank everyone for attending, and we certainly hope we've provided you with some useful information to assist you in your self-storage endeavors. You will be receiving an email shortly with a link to this archived presentation, so make sure you watch your inbox for this email. And to sign up for any of our future webinars, including those that Derek is giving, please check out our website at ministoragemessenger.com. Thank you for attending, and everyone have a wonderful rest of the day.
Thanks, everybody.